What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. June is here, which means it's time to discuss my most anticipated movies of the month. Before we begin, let me know in the comments which movies in June you're most looking forward to seeing. As always, this is just my list and not a definitive ranking. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these videos, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with more movie-related content on a near daily basis. As per usual, this is not a comprehensive list of everything that's just coming out. This is just my most anticipated. We have 10 movies to discuss, and they are in release order. Crimes of the Future, the return of legendary body horror director David Cronenberg, which sees a celebrity performance artist show off the metamorphosis of his organs in the next step of human evolution. A new Cronenberg movie is always going to go to the top of one of my most anticipated lists, as his blend of bizarre storylines and unique visual flair are always, at the very least, an experience, whether or not you wind up actually loving the movie. This one initially gained some notoriety for how unsettling its body horror elements can be, and while I doubt they're anything that we haven't seen already from Cronenberg, that has me excited for what should be yet another memorable experience from him. And this hits theaters on the 3rd. Fire Island, which sees a pair of best friends set out to have a legendary week-long summer vacation at the titular island. A loose adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, I'm especially excited for this one as it's directed by Andrew Ahn, whose previous film Driveways was one of my favorite movies of 2020. While that was a much more restrained effort than this looks to be, I'm still excited to see if this brings just as much of the charm as that film did, which, from the sounds of it, it appears to be the case. And it'll be nice to just get a movie that just seems to be pure fun. So, count me in, and this hits Hulu on the 3rd. Jurassic World Dominion, which is the final film in the Jurassic World trilogy, and also sees our protagonists from those films team up with Doctors Grant, Sattler, and Malcolm from the original Jurassic Park. Truthfully, I have not been that big of a fan of the Jurassic World movies, and I almost hesitated to put this on the list. However, Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies of all time, and while legacy, nostalgia-filled sequels are all the rage these days, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was at least a little bit excited to see the original trio back together for one last ride. So that's essentially where any sense of excitement I have for this lies. Here's to hoping it's the best of this trilogy, and it hits theaters on the 10th. Mad God, which sees a corroded diving bell descend amidst a ruined city, and an assassin emerges from it to explore a labyrinth of bizarre landscapes inhabited by freakish denizens. Filmed over the course of 30 years, this is a stop-motion animated horror movie from legendary visual effects supervisor Phil Tippett, who worked on the original Star Wars trilogy, Jurassic Park, and RoboCop, among many others. And with this having played at festivals since last year, I heard this is going to be a real treat. At the very least for its visuals. I mean, I love horror movies, and we don't get too many stop-motion animated movies these days, so that alone should make this a lot of fun. And I saw the trailer, and it only gave away so much regarding the story, which I'm totally good with, as I'm fine with going in a little blind and seeing what this has up its sleeve. So, this hits Shudder on the 16th. Cha-Cha Real Smooth, which focuses on a young man who works as a bar mitzvah party host and strikes up a friendship with a mother, played by Dakota Johnson, and her autistic daughter. Cooper Raiff stars, writes, and directs this in his second feature film. I was a big fan of his feature debut, Shithouse, which was another of my favorite films from 2020 for just how easily and sometimes painfully relatable it can be. And when this hit Sundance earlier this year, the rave reviews seem to indicate that he once again has his finger on the pulse for this kind of stuff. So, if this is anything like his first film, or somehow even better than it, this might seal the deal for him as one of my favorite new directors to watch out for. So, I'm really excited for this, and it hits Apple TV Plus on the 17th. Lightyear, which focuses on the actual space ranger who inspired the Buzz Lightyear toy from the Toy Story movies. Anything Toy Story related, you instantly have my attention, and while this might not necessarily be a direct continuation of the characters we know and love, it's still set within the universe as this movie within a movie. And the one thing I remember Pixar saying some time ago is when it comes to this franchise, they're not going to do more movies unless they know it adds something meaningful. So I have high hopes for this. The film does look like it'll be a fun space opera with some stunning visuals as per usual from Pixar. And considering their last few films have been pretty great, I have high hopes for this. And it hits theaters on the 17th. official competition, which sees a wealthy business hire a famous filmmaker to help make a smash hit film. Now, I'm not all that familiar with the writers/directors of this, but it has received a lot of positive reception when it played at festivals last year, and it has a combination of Penelope Cruz and Antonio Banderas in the lead roles. From the looks of the trailers, this appears like it'll be some really goofy fun, as it will give both actors an opportunity to let loose and go all out as these people with really inflated egos fighting their way through making a movie. So this is probably the one film from this list that I know the absolute least about, but I think it has the potential to be a good time, and it gets a limited theatrical release on the 17th. The Black Phone, which focuses on a 13-year-old boy who is abducted by a child killer and kept in his basement, though he then starts receiving calls on a disconnected phone from the killer's previous victims. Released by Blumhouse and based on the short story of the same name, this is directed by Scott Derrickson, and it's the direct result of his leaving Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, while the only other venture into horror by Derrickson that I've seen I wasn't crazy about, that being Sinister, this one has received a fair amount of acclaim after premiering at Fantastic Fest last year, and it seems like it's going to go down as one of the more notable horror movies of the year. The trailer does look eerie, and Ethan Hawke seems like he's going to be great as the antagonist, and hopefully this is the meatier antagonistic role of his this year after his villainous turn in Moon Knight, which I didn't necessarily love, but I'm excited for this, and it hits theaters on the 24th. Elvis stars Austin Butler as Elvis Presley, and a look at the legendary rock and roll singer's life. Now, normally I don't get overly excited for biopics, but considering this is directed by Baz Luhrmann, who actually has a very distinct sense of style to his movies with a lot of wild camera movements, gorgeous color palettes, and a manic visual flair, you definitely have my attention. Especially as this looks to be Baz Luhrmann at his most Luhrmann-y, on top of the fact that you have Tom Hanks in a more antagonistic role as Elvis's domineering manager, which I feel can go either way in terms of how good it is, but at the very least, it seems like it's something in the vein of his Lady Killer's performance, just cranked all the way up to an 11. So I have a good feeling I will be, at the very least, entertained by this, even if it's sure to play into all the usual biopic tropes. But whatever ends up happening, it's sure to be an experience, and it hits theaters on the 24th. And finally, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, based on the short films of the same name that sees Jenny Slate reprise her role as the titular Shell, who goes on a search for her family with the help of a documentary crew. Distributed by A24, this sees them make a rare venture into family-friendly territory, and I gotta say, this just looks absolutely adorable. I don't know much about the original shorts, but this looks like a very gentle, sweet little film with a nice sense of humor that should appeal to all audiences without ever coming across like it's pandering or oversimplifying things. So this could be one of those A24 films that winds up having a lot wider of an appeal than they're generally known for. It looks like a good time, and it hits theaters on the 24th. But let me know, which movies in June are you most looking forward to seeing? Was it anything I listed here? Was it something I left off? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it. And for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep having fun with film.